Hey there, bookworms. Welcome to Pouring Over Books, a podcast where we dive into the books we love and maybe a few we didn't. I'm your host, LaShawn, and every week I'll be deep diving into what I'm reading, recommendations, and talking about all the things that we love about books. So grab your favorite coffee or tea, find a cozy spot, and let's get ready to pour over some great books together. Hey, friends. Welcome back to the Pouring Over Books podcast. My name is LaShawn, and I am your host. And friends, February is basically done. I don't know about you, but it has been a busy month for me, and your girl is tired. I just want to lay in bed for like 3 days with a pint of Talente gelato, the pistachio flavor to be specific, and do nothing but pretend to read a book while staring out of the window. But anyway, it's been an okay reading month for me, and next week I plan on sharing with you what I read this month because, yes, I want every day in February to count. We still have 3 days left. So I'm going to use all those 3 days to get in the books that I want to read. I should finish at least one more. Anyway, but someone on IG asked me the other day how I read so much. In fact, I've gotten that question a lot lately, so much so, and I decided that it was time to finally give a detailed answer about that. So I figured that what I would do is I'd chit-chat with you about that today, mainly because I know I always want to know about other people's reading processes and reading habits, and it may give someone else an idea of how to fit more reading into their life if that is something that you want to do. So let me start off by saying that I am a mood reader. I've said that before, but let me elaborate so that you know what that means. I try to keep a loose TBR, a to-be-read list on hand. Like if I know certain books are being released by my favorite author that month, I will put that on my TBR for the month. Or I might have a list of books I want to read for the year, and I do. And every month I add a few of those books to my list. Or I might hear about a book on a podcast, and again, add the book to my ever-growing list. But being a mood reader means that I could be in the middle of a book, a good one, and decide on the spur of the moment to start another one. This is why it took me a year to finish Iron Flame and almost 2 years to finally finish another one last week. Some days I'm in the mood for a good classic rom-com. Some days I want to read something heavy. Some days it's sci-fi or fantasy fits. Sometimes I just want something cozy or familiar, and sometimes I want to read about murder and mayhem. If the mood hits, I will switch it up in a minute, and I have no regrets about it. And because of that, I tend to read multiple books at one time, and therefore tend to read more books than most. I've developed a system over the last couple of years that really works for me, and I am going to share it with you today. So let's get into it. At all times, I have a physical book, a digital book, an audio book, and a comfort book. Yes, that is 4 different types of books going at all times. Sometimes the same book takes up 3 in the same category, but I digress on that, and I will talk about that at another time. But let me explain in further detail. I love a good physical book. My physical books tend to be backlist books from the library and new releases from my favorite authors or books from my bookshelf. Some books I know I'm going to want to hold in my hand, and also these are the books that live on my bedside table to read before bed. I don't usually use a screen before bed because I've found that it disrupts my sleep. Even if I'm using my Kindle, I always have a physical book by the bed. They occasionally escape to the coffee shop with me if they are at a critical point where I can't put it down. But for the most part, my physical books live on my bedside table or in a bookcase somewhere. Then my digital book. I love my Kindle. You will pry it from my cold, dead hands. I love my Colorsoft Kindle. I really do love it. I love the paperwhite nature of it and the non-glare. It's easy on my eyes. It's small. That battery literally lasts for weeks, and I can take it anywhere. Even though, this is a side note, I am considering getting an iPad mini because I still have books from my Nook app. That is the Barnes & Noble version of the Kindle, which was out before the Kindle, I believe. I can't remember. But anyway, I used to have a Nook, And then they had a Nook app right in the beginning. So all of my books that I bought from Barnes and Noble long ago are on my Nook app, and it's on my phone right now. But I was thinking about an iPad mini because I could put that app on there and read those books there instead of just always relying on my phone to go back and read some of those. I really want to use Bookshop's ebooks because, now bookshop.org is selling ebooks, but they are only available to read on their app. So decisions. Anyway, I am always reading a digital book. Usually this is some light romance from Kindle Unlimited or an advanced reader copy that I receive from a publisher. The digital book can also be read on my phone, like I said, if I'm out and have to wait like in a line or wait for like my oil to be changed or something like that. Instead of doom scrolling, I read. Like today, I was waiting in a bookshop, and which is ironic because I was waiting for the price of something and they had to call the owner. It was an independent bookshop. And what did I do? I sat down in a corner and I read a book, a digital book on my app. But anyway, the next type of book that I always have is an audiobook. I usually listen to books while I cook, while I clean, in the car, while I'm grocery shopping. It's like the ultimate multitasking for me. Audiobooks are usually a nonfiction book or a really long literary book that I know otherwise I would keep putting down and never pick back up. For example, I have plans to start reading Brandon Sanderson's The Way of Kings this spring. The physical copy has 1,008 pages. The audiobook is 45 hours and 30 minutes long. I could be listening to this for months. And so, it'll be the ultimate, book to keep going. But I also tend to listen to multiple books at one time, depending on my mood, again, because I've also been listening to Cher's memoir on and off for months. And I am okay with that. I also use audiobooks to do what I call tandem reading. It is called tandem reading, where I will, like I was doing that this weekend. If you have an Audible book and a Kindle book, most of them, not all of them, some of them will whisper sync, what they call it. When you put down, like if I stop listening to the audiobook, if I pick up the Kindle, it takes up where I left off. I also do that with physical books and audiobooks too, because sometimes you just got to get it in. But last but not least, on my list of types of books that I read is a comfort book. A comfort book can be any format, but it is always a book that I've read before, but one that is like a favorite. So there are certain books that I reread once a year or every few years because they are familiar. They're comforting. It's like people who like to rewatch their favorite TV shows. For example, like my husband will rewatch Good Times or Sanford and Son whenever it's on, even though he has seen every last single episode multiple times and can basically recite each episode word for word. He will sit there and watch. I'm the same, but with books. But basically, sometimes no book can hold my attention or I'm in a reading slump. And I will reread or start over a series or reread a classic. Like every fall, I reread the Discovery of Witches series by Deborah Harkness. And sometimes I reread old romance books like Lisa Kleypa's Hathaway and Ravenel series. And it's been years since my son was about 10, but it's about time for my comfort reread of Harry Potter. And yes, the author is trash, but the books remain excellent despite her. And that's all I'm going to say. So friends, that is how I read multiple books at a time and therefore get through more books than most. So I thought it would be fun to go through what I'm currently reading in each category. So, physical book. Right now, I am currently reading Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn because the third book in the series comes out next Tuesday, March 4th. Let's read the description for you. This is the second book in the series. I have been putting off reading this book because the next book coming out was supposed to be the end of the trilogy. Yes, I am mad that she has me hooked and that it's not going to be a trilogy now, but I can't stop. So here we are. But let me tell you about the book. Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn is the second book in the Legendborn series, a modern Arthurian, like King Arthur, inspired fantasy novel. It follows Bree Matthews as she struggles with the weight of her new powers and revelations about her heritage. With the Order of the Round Table fractured and enemies closing in, Bree must navigate dangerous alliances, hidden truths, and her growing connection to powerful magic. I am in love with this series and I cannot wait until the third one comes out. And yes, I will be going to see her when she comes in town 2 weeks because, baby, I have questions. Anyway, for my digital book, I am currently reading Can't Get Enough by Kennedy Ryan. Yes, I got an advanced copy, and yes, I am finally settling in to read it. Let me tell you what the book is about. Hendrix Berry seemingly has it all. I'm so excited by Hendrix. Anyway, she has success, friends, and family, but caring for an aging parent complicates her already busy life. Romance, low RI, she thinks. Then she meets Maverick Bell. Just the name, y'all. The tech muggle is charming and undeniably attractive, igniting a spark Hendrix can't deny. However, he's off limits. I wonder why. Despite the forbidden fruit allure, a relationship with Maverick could derail her carefully constructed life. Yet, his persistent pursuit makes her question everything. Can she resist the pull of something more? I will hold off on a full review until closer to the May release date, but will give you my general feelings probably in the books that I read last month's episode next week. Now, for my audiobook, I just started Favorites by Lane Fargo. Let me see. Katrina Shaw dreams of Olympic glory despite lacking resources and support. Her connection with foster kid Heath Roca forms a powerful skating duo. They rise from childhood sweethearts to champions, captivating the world with their chemistry and rebellious style. A shocking Olympic incident shatters their partnership, and 10 years later, a documentary threatens to expose their story. To reclaim her narrative, Kat breaks her silence, revealing the tragedies that forged their bond and the desires that tore them apart. The truth, she claims, is more shocking than any rumor. I heard about this book on Book Talk Etc. podcast in early January and downloaded it immediately, but I'm just going to get to it now at the end of February into March. And that's normal for me. I download books all the time and then just hold until I'm ready to read them. But anyway, and now my comfort book. It is time for my reread of the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. Ooh, y'all. Let's get started with the first book, Throne of Glass. In a magicless land, assassin Selena Sardarthian is summoned to the king's castle, not to kill, but to win her freedom. By defeating 23 prisoners in a competition, she'll become the king's champion. The crown prince provokes her, the captain of the guard protects her, and a princess befriends her. But a deadly evil lurks within the castle, and as her competitors are mysteriously murdered, Selena's fight for freedom becomes fight for survival. She must unmask the evil before it destroys everything. I know everyone loves ACOTAR, and seriously, I love that series down, especially book 2, chapter 55. If you know, you know. But Throne of Glass is the better written and more, I'm going to say, fantasy-like series. Yes, it takes a hard adult romantic turn about around book 5, but for the most part, it's YA fantasy with adult themes. I will always maintain that YA fantasy is closer to high fantasy because there's an actual plot that does not revolve around the romance, a well thought out magical system, and of course, our main character must save the world. But this book in particular, this series, will always be a great comfort read for me. Yes, this series has what I feel like is the best book husband of them all, but I love that he isn't even introduced until book 3, and even then, he is not the romantic interest. But let me stop talking about this book because I will spend the entire episode evangelizing about this series. I own this series on audio, digital. That's where those Nook books come in, by the way, and physical. So I have my choice on how I want to read it. Okay. So those are my books that I'm currently reading, but I have a water cooler topic Haven't had one of those in a while, but this is going to be a longer episode than usual because I have to address something that has been circling the internet and something that a friend DM'd me about last week. Amazon is removing your right to download your Kindle books, which technically you didn't own anyway. Did you know that when you buy a Kindle book on Amazon, you don't really own it? If you look up any Kindle book on Amazon and read the licensing terms, which I know no one does, it says by placing your order, you are purchasing a license to the content and you agree to the Kindle store terms of use. So technically, you don't own the book. And if a publisher loses the license to the book, you lose the book. That's what happened to Start This Firestorm. People who bought 1984 on their Kindle and then it disappeared from their libraries. And, you know, it's social media. It went wild. To get around this problem, a lot of people started downloading their Kindle books to the computer and removing the DRM, the digital rights management, so that they could read the book on any reader, not just the Kindle, because, hey, you paid for it, right? This is the problem with digital ownership. You don't really own anything unless it is physical media. Like you physically own the book, the CD, etc., the tape, if you really want to say, but you don't own the digital file. But what brought this firestorm really to a head is that Amazon is now removing your right to download your Kindle books and remove the DRM, effectively tying you to using only their reader. Like you can only use the Kindle now with their books. But never fear. If this is something that bothers you and you want to do something about it, Amazon is giving you till February 26, 2025, which is Wednesday, tomorrow, to download all of your books before they remove the ability to do so. Which is why, friends, I rarely buy books on my Kindle anymore. I discovered this a few years ago and was like, okay, I will use Kindle Unlimited heavily. I will borrow from the library and use Libby. But if I love a book, I always own a physical copy of said book. Like the guy at the bookstore told me, it's my trophy. Because I don't want to look up one day and all of my favorite books of all time have been deleted from my Kindle device because the publisher no longer has a license and neither does Amazon. Also, again, as much as I love my Kindle Colorsoft, it does have me reevaluating how I read digital books, which may lead me to buying an iPad mini in the future because if I use the Kindle app for the ebooks I own, I would like to have a device solely dedicated to reading. I'm really, like I said earlier, I'm really interested in what bookshop.org is doing with their ebooks. So this might be my personal solution to be able to read books on all the apps and not just a monopoly of one. Okay, friends, I'm off my soapbox. That is all today. I did want to remind you that the Pouring Over Books Club book club, and if you want to join us on any month at all, head on over to my Substack, Letters from LaShawn, and the info is there. Just look for Pouring Over Books Book Club. This year, we are reading these Black Chick Lit, I call it. Our next book for March is Video Vixen by Karen Superhead Stevens. It is our first and I think only nonfiction read this year. So if you are interested in chatting with us, it is only $5 a month and you can cancel at any time. You can come in and out on books that you want to read. The entire list for the year is on my newsletter. It is, since it's Substack, you know, it's almost built like a blog. If you search for it, you will find it. Okay, friends, that is all. Thank you for listening. If you love the podcast, please make sure you share, subscribe, and leave a good review on a platform of your choice. It helps us grow and find new book friends. And as always, you can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at LaShawn Wilkes, and on Substack, look for Letters from LaShawn. Okay, friends, I'm off to read something good. Until next time, I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.